Why Dana is ignoring Conor McGregor. Once undefeatable in Dana White's estimation, Conor McGregor now appears to be receiving a distant reaction from the UFC CEO. Why the sudden silence? Does this move by Dana indicate intent? Or could Conor's spotlight be about to finish dramatically? This in-depth dive will look into the history, effects, and believable future of McGregor's questionable relationship with the UFC. Is this the end, or is this a piece of a more expansive design? The continuous achievement of UFC is incomplete unless we talk about Conor McGregor's engagement. With his fearless first appearance in 2013, he amazed audiences across the board through his rich character, quick wit, and obvious talent in the Octagon. After being unrecognized, McGregor's harmony toward fame came quickly and was unique. Dana White timely realized that McGregor was unique among all of the fighters the UFC had come across. Conor was remarkably skilled and also a performer, a showman equipped to pull large audiences and break records. In 2015, Dustin Poirier and Jose Aldo were the leading competitors that he defeated, and he secured his title as the best the UFC had available. Then came the Alvarez fight. In 2016, McGregor made history by being the first to hold titles in 2 UFC weight divisions all at once. That legendary image of McGregor, covered in both featherweight and lightweight belts, underlined his position as the ruler of the martial arts. Dana White, in his role as president of UFC, surely had every reason to capitalize on the McGregor wave as it potentially allowed. But 2017 brought a turning point. The combat sports world just jolted when Conor McGregor revealed he would take on Floyd Mayweather in a boxing event. Stepping from the UFC arena into the boxing ring was unthinkable at that level. Nevertheless, it was McGregor's confidence that achieved it. This looked to Dana White and the UFC like a chance that comes around only once in a lifetime. Though the battle wasn't in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, White stood to earn greatly from McGregor's international recognition. Financially, the fight worked out incredibly well, obtaining staggering pay-per-view earnings and earnings upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars. This situation created an original precedent. McGregor was able to articulate his terms, and Dana White knew it. When looking back, the Mayweather fight could have been what broke them apart. It seemed McGregor was no longer solely the property of the UFC. He became his person, free to manage his own choices. But will Dana White be able to handle McGregor as his celebrity and ego continue to escalate? As McGregor's celebrity grows, so too does the level of controversies he faces. In Dublin and Miami, McGregor's actions grew more haphazard, from hitting an elderly man to breaking a fan's phone. Dana White regularly found himself in an unpleasant position of needing to discuss McGregor's most recent behavior, which began to undermine the UFC's image. Although controversy is nothing new in the world of combat sports, McGregor's actions were rising in intensity. Dana White had been prepared to dismiss these incidents repeatedly because of McGregor's undeniable worth as a profit generator. But the relentless wave of negative news was hard to ignore forever. McGregor had gained his worst reputation by 2020. An array of accusations of sexual misconduct, outbursts typified by violence, along with fundamental dishonor for the rules and framework of the UFC, made it tough for Dana White. There's a moment in each business partnership when the expense of sustaining it starts to exceed the benefits. It looks like Dana White has initiated reaching that point with McGregor. He returned in 2018 for a highly anticipated bout with Khabib Nurmagomedov, a fight that ended badly for McGregor, largely because of the loss and the infamous fracas that occurred afterwards. This incident worsened the career of McGregor as a fighter. Considered almost unbeatable not long ago, McGregor's following matches brought to light a warrior who seemed to be waning in his skill set. In 2020, McGregor had an impressive return win against Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone, but the next 2 losses to Dustin Poirier in 2021, as well as a horrific leg break in their trilogy fight, made McGregor's future uncertain. At this time, it was obvious that Dana White's comments about McGregor had appreciably changed. McGregor's returns failed to excite the UFC president anymore, who remained vague about future matches when asked. Dana White's fixed faith in McGregor was beginning to waver. One of the biggest reasons Dana White may be distancing himself from McGregor is simple. The UFC has fewer needs for him now than in the past. At McGregor's highest point, the UFC needed his stardom. McGregor's name alone was sufficient to fill up arenas. Furthermore, outside of McGregor, Israel Adesanya, Sean O'Malley, and Khamzat Chimaev are giving thrilling performances in the Octagon. while they are free from the kind of expectations that come with McGregor. Having an entrepreneurial mindset, Dana White knows that the UFC needs to diversify its talent pool. The promotion is more important than any one person, and McGregor's diminishing performances and strange behavior might mean he's become redundant. Is it possible that Dana White is intentionally setting the UFC aside from McGregor? Despite McGregor still being a famous name, the UFC has indicated it can prosper devoid of his presence. Everyone knows that Conor McGregor and Dana White maintain a complicated relationship. From time to time, they've functioned as business associates, supporters, and even intimates. At the center of their connection is, without a doubt, a fight for power. For a long time, McGregor served as the UFC's premier ticket sales attraction, bringing with it a degree of control that few fighters have ever known. McGregor possesses the talent to request boxing in different weight divisions, seek special perks, and define his conditions while doing business. But just as McGregor's status has lessened, so has his bargaining power. As the head of the UFC, Dana White has continuously ensured a certain level of control over the promotion's fighters. And it may be that McGregor is truly sorry. Sad. It wasn't just that McGregor played the game, he went further. He changed it. Dana White, in charge of the UFC, frequently gave the appearance of negotiating from a place of inadequacy when dealing with his top performer. McGregor's grip on Dana White and the UFC was, for a while, entirely without question. In actual time, the Mayweather fight illustrated this transformation in power. Dana was obligated to aid Conor, since he was able to leap across sports and potentially make history. It was impossible to deny McGregor's leverage. But times change. The presence of a value of talent that has arisen to grab fan interest, represented by Israel Adesanya in the middleweight division and Khamzat Chimaev's fast ascent, alongside Sean O'Malley's striking style. These fighters are young, ambitious, and much less debatable than McGregor. She can forge fighters into bright new stars who bring less drama than what comes with the Irishman. The falling value of McGregor within the UFC structure overlaps with a decrease in his negotiation capabilities. A brilliant businessman, Dana White recognizes this better than anyone else. McGregor may still be able to draw significant attention to a fight, but the UFC doesn't need his spotlight anymore. Does Dana have a long-range strategy at work, gradually preparing the UFC to function with less reliance on McGregor as Conor becomes less influential in the future? Dana White's recent lack of interest might stem from the most important shift in power. McGregor's dominance has come to an end. Adesanya and Chimaev excite in the ring, with McGregor's passion starting to decline. Irrespective of your feelings for him, you have to agree that Conor McGregor fundamentally changed UFC forever. Thanks to his oversight of important sporting historical events, he has risen to the position of celebrity on a global scale. But combat sports legacies can be weak, and McGregor's is at an important junction. What was once around him as a sign of immunity has now chipped apart. His most recent antics, coupled with a variety of legal problems, have made it harder for his reputation to recover. For Dana White, at this point, McGregor's legacy might not be a benefit, but a complication. The eagerly anticipated event, featuring McGregor versus Michael Chandler, was designed to mark McGregor's splendid return to the arena, and a bout that would change his career and return him to the leading edge of the UFC. Fans were lively, and Chandler was prepared to meet the Notorious. So what happened? The fight unraveled, and neither McGregor nor Dana White looked overly eager to clarify why it turned out that way. The 6-month testing pool requirement for McGregor from the US ADA was one reason given, though many believe there might be other factors at play. Deeming McGregor's unwillingness to engage in the fight and Dana White's response, fans found themselves perplexed. The expansion of the UFC is accompanied by a growth in its business strategy. The strategy no longer correlates with McGregor's unpredictability compared to how it was before. Thanks to its global status, the UFC has a brand that is more valuable than that of any one of its fighters. It seems that Dana White, who once bent the rules for McGregor, might now be concentrating on a more sustainable future for the organization. The UFC's continual evolution has been one of its key strengths all along. The UFC has continuously discovered emerging fighters to lead the way, starting from the days of Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz to the preeminence of George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva. McGregor was arguably the best performer, but now the UFC might need to concentrate on what lies ahead. Is this the explanation for why Dana is not responding to McGregor? Because he is not a part of the UFC's next phase? This is the question on everyone's mind. Can Conor McGregor come back after his previous performances? His name remains amongst the largest in combat sports, and if he does manage to get back in form, the UFC would be foolish not to take advantage of it. But what does that rebound appear to be? In 2020 and onward, McGregor hasn't booked a win, and his last couple of performances have been disappointing. The intensely difficult attributes of MMA reveal the impact that injuries, together with legal problems and personal considerations, can have on an athlete. The push to reintroduce McGregor could now prove riskier for Dana White than it does reward. If McGregor makes a comeback and suffers another defeat, it could badly impair his legacy and, ultimately, the UFC's image. If he comes back and is a success, it will likely emerge as one of the most impressive redemption tales ever told in sports. People know Dana as a pragmatist. He'll choose what's ideal for the UFC, even if that results in taking a former great fighter like McGregor off the grid. With our current position, the UFC's future for Conor McGregor is not yet clear. Dana White appears to be at ease with McGregor vanishing into the shadows, having previously been the biggest backer of the Irishman. The UFC continues to advance whether McGregor joins or not, and now it's his move to make. But what about McGregor? Will he just go with being sidelined, or will he struggle to regain his high ranking? One thing is for sure, McGregor excels in the art of surprising others. Of all the fighters, he is the one who can change his situation positively. The UFC does not wait for anyone, not even Conor McGregor, as time is quickly depleting. Is it possible that this marks the breakup of the McGregor-Dana White association? Is it just another part of an ongoing elaborate story? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this feud is far from over. So what do you think? Is Dana White intentionally bypassing Conor McGregor? Or is the UFC just transitioning away from its biggest talent? Feel free to give your thoughts in the comments, because in the continuously changing world of combat sports, anything might happen.